So with the Pearson's API models, they typically develop kind of a carousel enrollment system. So enrollments are happening every 6, 8, 10 weeks, and they sort of run ongoing with very short breaks between semesters, so students can get through a program at rapid pace. Everything is typically hosted on their learning management system. So they handle all the marketing, all the intakes, the enrollments, and then the academics tutors do have some involvement in that, although I think some even offer kind of a tutoring service within that. So it's really, really outsourced.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing because there's quite a range of models. So it's basically you can have a all-you-can-eat model where you work with the partner and they provide everything, or there are some services that will offer little bits of that, and there's some universities prefer not to give the whole thing out to a private provider, but they want little bits of the management aspect of it. They might want a bit of the learning design aspect of it.
And then a whole range of quality issues get raised with that, don't they?
And I mentioned this one. This one's slightly different in that iDesign Edu is made up of people who left academic partnerships. I personally have got much more time for this approach because they do a fixed fee for service. So you work with them. They work with your academic staff. They produce something, but you know how much it's going to cost. Whereas with the other models, typically you might be paying 50% of your student fees going to your private provider, which is quite a lot of money. Whereas with this model, you pay X thousands of dollars to have your course designed, and then it's yours. And they make quite a thing of all of the intellectual property and design, and everything stays with the originator. So very, very quickly, a very quick overview of sort of moving from inside to semi-outside to wholly outside, that sort of continuum. And there are lots of variations in between of strategies for organising the design and delivery of online learning. And I haven't really talked too much about the technologies involved, and we might talk about that a bit more. The ones that I've directly observed have been very traditional, and I think there are lots and lots of options for much more innovative and desirable solutions that provide a better experience. And one of those might come from, what I've called here is use a MOOC platform, but Andrea's just going to talk a bit about that.
If you could go to the next slide. Maybe first I'll just mention Open Universities Australia. So is everybody familiar with how they work? So they are kind of like the marketing side of those other agencies. They're an aggregator. They are owned by 7 shareholder universities, of which RMIT is one. And enrollments are occurring every 12 weeks, 12, 13 weeks. So there's 4 enrollments, 4 semesters a year, terms a year. But the delivery is done entirely by the universities who are teaching those programs. And when students study through OUA, they get a degree, qualification from the university, not from Open Universities Australia. That was how OUA operated for a very long time. And then I guess it was 2012 that they started developing, 2011 that they came up with the concept of Open to Study, which is a MOOC platform. So if you go on to the next. This was their first foray into becoming a content creator themselves, and they had big ambitions, which was to develop 50 MOOCs in 1 year, and which they did.
Wow.
But to do that, you can't take a bespoke approach to the design. So it's a very specific type of delivery. every MOOC is 4 weeks. It has 4 hours of video content. After every 5 to 6 minutes of video, there's a quiz question, and at the end of the week, there's a longer quiz, and there's a forum built in so people can ask questions and have the questions answered. They are not moderated by subject matter experts. Some academics, like Shane Halbert in art, when he did his photography MOOC, he was really into it, so he went in and he did moderate things, but that was not a requirement. There were community managers who did that and would sort of take any content issues to the academic, and the academic would provide feedback on that. But they started to run a model where people who had done the MOOC and done a MOOC and really participated a lot could start to act as kind of, mentors within it, I guess. So they could be sort of have a leadership role in answering questions and things like that within the MOOC. But obviously, to do this on this year time frame, Open Universities essentially created a startup within the organization. They took people from all over the organization. They built a new, they modified Moodle, sort of bolted 2 systems together to build this system, and they built an in-house production team, and they had an external production team, and they hired people like Howard and me to assist the academics from the different universities and TAFEs to develop the content rapid fire. Like it went really quickly, and it was a system and templates, and you filled these templates in, and we would review them and provide feedback, and it ran like that. So if you could go on to the next one. Oh, sorry, if you go back to the presentation, I actually had linked it.
Oh.
Sorry, you'll have to navigate not with clicking, but with...
Oh, not with clicking, you say?
Yes, not with clicking.
Oh,
Maybe
sorry.
with that, that's okay. It's an annoying thing I tend to do. So, Future Learn is a very different approach to that on the openness side, on the MOOC side, where all the development is actually done by the universities who are the subject matter expertise behind the MOOCs. So we're currently developing 2 MOOCs. We do all the design, we do all the content and production, development, all of that, and then we build it into their platform and they promote it for us. One of the nice things about Future Learn is that it is not as templated as something like Open to Study. There's a lot more freedom, and it can be, you can adopt an approach with it that works more for, maybe the subject matter. It's a little bit more, you can make it a bit more personalized for your content. However, it is a very linear system. So it's a MOOC. So you have potentially tens of thousands of people registering in any one little short run course. And so some of the things like, project-based work or group work, they're not actively encouraging people to use those types of approaches because they're much harder to get to work on with large cohorts, and it would be very hard to make those work on their platform because it's a great platform. It works really well, but it isn't. There's no space for co-creation or student curation of things and that kind of student-driven approach that many of us, I think, are trying to help others create in other areas. You could click through a couple. So they have a huge range of courses as well, and just keep going. And one of the big producers on Future Learn is the University of Leeds. This is just a selection of their MOOCs. They have a huge variety that they offer. And next. To do that, Leeds has their own digital learning team, and whose focus is actually to develop external facing resources. So if this is for iTunes U, sort of open educational resources and their MOOC content. And
I say their website isn't nearly as
no,
nice.
that's what I thought. interesting work, flat website.
Yes.
So this is just an example of one of the things that they do, and they have quite a interesting team with lots of different skill sets. So they really are producing an incredible number of MOOCs, and to do that, they've obviously created a kind of a center where that's the focus, and they're working on that. And one of the things Leigh is doing now, if you go to the next one, is they are looking at actually giving people credit for doing their MOOCs on FutureLearn that they can then transfer over to the university. This was just announced in May, which is an interesting approach, because universities have taken a lot of different approaches to how to monetize MOOCs. If this is a way to offer content, well, how do you make that work for you financially? So on the next, there are these different models that people have used. So Open to Study, it's free. It's there. You don't pay anything. You'll never pay anything to go and do these MOOCs. Some offer low-cost options, so it's $30, $40 to do something. Some you can do everything, you can access everything, but if you want a certificate of achievement, of completion, you have to pay. Some you can pay to have your assessments marked and get feedback on them. And Coursera is now going down the road of using some of their MOOCs to now create programs in conjunction with other universities. So I think it's the University of Illinois. They're offering the IMBA, which is using grouping some of the Coursera specialization courses together into creating a program. And the other model is to try to convert enrollments, which is, I think, part of what Open Universities Australia was trying to do, which hasn't proved, I think, for universities in general, a very effective model for having that openness and then driving people into the paid programs. And I think that's it for me.